of all, how cool is this tent, huh? I'm personally incredibly honored and thrilled to be back at Elvis Week on the 35th anniversary, and we've got some awards to give here that I think will just prove once again how popular Elvis's music is year after year after year. You know, 35 years later, it's still just as big as ever. And we've got some gold records, some platinum records, and even a very special new award this year. So without further ado, we want to do kind of some talking about a couple of the records. But first, I want to thank Jack Soden and Gary Hovey and everybody at EPE for having us. And you know, it's such a fantastic, fantastic celebration every year that it just keeps getting better and better. We think so. Ernst here is going to give us some color commentary on some of the records and sort of how we go through this process every year and why. And so if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I know it seems like fairly straightforward. How many has it sold, and then you get an award. But remember, we're Sony Music. We acquired Elvis's catalog in a merger with the former record company of Elvis Presley, BMG, who then again bought Elvis' catalog from his original record company, RCA, and before that there was Sun Records. And I tell you, you know, no company, whatever business they're in, can keep the paperwork for the past 50 years of what they do. So it's a complicated process, and I know some fans, some very educated fans actually, question what we have given Elvis over the years, and we can only give him as much as we have solid factual information about. This goes through an audit company in New York that takes all of our numbers and they crunch them, and we cannot, you know, manipulate anything. And that's why, you know, some of the stories that we have here, if they have no comments with them, maybe you cannot really, truly appreciate the significance of the award. So we've taken the liberty of, on a few of these, to come up with some extra comment, and I think we would very much like to have the first plaque presented on stage now, and I'll tell you a little bit about that.
So the first one is for Elvis's very first RCA record, Elvis Presley, the famous record and cover, and it is, believe it or not, now a platinum record, 1 million copies sold.
See, back when that record came out and sold 300,000 in 1956, it was the biggest selling pop album at the time. It was RCA's biggest seller ever. And when you put that in context with the mass market of music in the 1980s and Eric Garth Brooks' album selling 10 million, you can obviously see that sales of music back in the 50s was a lot different. The economy was a lot different, and you sold records to teenagers, so they didn't have money like people have today to buy whole albums. They bought singles. That's why Hound Dog is sold for 1 million, and a lot of the others are sold 2 and 3. But 350,000 back then was astonishing. Now it's platinum, and that's 1 million. But remember, all these songs that are on Elvis Presley's first album are on many, many, many other albums that also have sold gold, platinum, and multi-platinum. But this was a historical record in 1956, and if we can bring up the next album, we can add a little to the story.
So the second record, fittingly, is the album called Elvis. Also now a platinum record.
Again, something interesting here, because if Elvis was very satisfied and happy, and RCA were with that first album, eventually, later that year, it was no longer the best-selling album in RCA's history, because Elvis' second album actually sold 500,000. And if you remember, in those days, they actually took Elvis' second album and split it into 3 EPs, of which the one that had Love Me on it went to number 6 in the charts and sold 250,000. So again, it gives you perspective on, well, back in those days, singles were really the main product for teenagers, and therefore it's a bit, you know, comparing oranges and apples if you want to compare sales of albums in the 50s, or for that matter in the early 60s, to Def Leppard or Garth Brooks or, you know, Saturday Night Fever much later. These are really true achievements, and it's just a little bit an aside here. Elvis in his nightshirt, or whatever we want to call that front cover, that was actually at a photo session made for his first album, but, you know, they took another picture and they used it for the second album. So much about these historical albums. I will get John to assist me in talking, just mention the next titles, but just give a little bit of information. Some of these titles may be unfamiliar to you. Some may be, in your minds, lesser albums. Some fans complain about how we release records that they have no need for because they already have it all. But it's both the business and it's also the mission of our company to make records for a normal, general, non-Elvis fan audience, hoping that by buying an attractive hits compilation, a gospel compilation, or a Christmas compilation, that they will eventually want to buy more. So, you know, there's different types of CDs for different type of audiences, and some fans have very little patience with some of our hits compilations, but they will show up on this list.
So we'll do the next 3 together because they're all gold albums, all compilations that have been put out over the years and are now up to 500,000 certified sales. So the first is The Very Best of Love.
What is The Very Best of Love, actually?
I can't talk about that with you. The next one is Elvis for Kids. Remember that one?
That's a special projects release, but it sold 500,000.
And then Mahalo from Elvis.
Mahalo was, as you remember, a Camden album that came out and had the 5 extra songs from Aloha from Hawaii. A kind of weird album, but it still sold 500,000.
The next one is also a platinum record, so 1 million copies for the album I Got Lucky.
I think even Elvis would have been amazed at this, but it's just track 4 on a Kid Galahad EP or something, right?
That's right. The next one is also a gold record. This one's from pretty recently, and it's one of several collections of his Christmas songs. This one is Elvis Christmas, and it is a gold record. The next one is one of my personal favorites. The live album from the International Hotel, Elvis in Person. That is a platinum album.
Did we forget anything?
There might be one more. Let me see. Oh yeah. The next one is the first album of Elvis's in the United States to surpass 10 times platinum. So 10 million certified sales. It's sort of an odd one. It's not one you might think. So I'll have Ernst tell you a little bit about the record. But this record we're going to give both a plaque, a 10 times platinum plaque, and also Elvis's very first Diamond Award. Because Diamond Awards are hard to come by.
And just to end this little section with putting things in perspective again, it's all about rules, and it's a little bit funny that Elvis Christmas album, certified 10 times platinum, is actually the 1970 Camden release and not the original. But those were the rules at the time of the RIAA, where we could not combine it with the original album that has sold another 3 million. We could not combine it with an album that has exactly the same tracks, called It's Elvis Time, that sold 4 million. And we could not combine that with 3, 4, or 5 other releases. And my point is that 10 million Elvis Christmas recordings is very, very impressive. But it's actually a lot more impressive that the 8 original Christmas recordings on the first albums have all sold over 20 million copies in America.
So those are the plaques for this year. They'll be on display, I imagine. Scott might be able to tell us more about that. But I just wanted to thank everybody for coming down and helping us with this. And we'll see you guys at the vigil in a couple hours.